Alright, I'm actually kind of surprised I'm actually posting this up, but yeah, this is a battle against HyperLopunny something, some random number. Anyway, I decide to try and confuse him and make ducks fly around his head, and a duck hits him in the head, and he loses health because of it. Health, yes. He loses health because of it. And I decide to bolt him with thunder because, I mean, that's obviously what I gotta do since my other moves are not even effective against him. So he tries dancing with swords and eating apples by cutting out the apple with the swords and whatnot. And I throw a ball of shadows at him and drop his special defense. And he baton passes 2 stats, and he goes out to Sharpedo. So I'm like, okay, Thunderbolt should kill this thing, no problem. And it's got -1 special defense, and it freaking lives. How does that happen? I mean, Banana was telling me that his Sharpedo died to a 0 EV special attack Vaporeon HP Electric, and that thing lived a non-stab with Thunderbolt with -1 special defense from Frostlass. What? I mean, seriously. Okay, so I decided to go into look at my belly, because that'll make him stop attacking me with water moves and whatnot, but he doesn't have a choice item, so I don't really understand why he... Well, I mean, I don't know. So he goes into Tentacruel, and he tries to set up some spikes that are toxic around my feet, and I shake the ground because that's obviously what you do when there's a poison type out. And considering how it's floating, I don't understand how the earthquake would even hit it. I mean, it hits Frostlass, but it doesn't... I mean, whatever. So he brings out Regice, and I decide to break its bricks, and it's about a 2 or 3 hit KO depending on leftovers, and he bolts me with Thunder, but thanks to look at my belly's special defense stat, it doesn't die. And we both eat apples, and yeah. So I call look at my belly back, and I decide, I don't really want to have toxic spikes on me. So he goes for another Thunderbolt, and he eats more apples, and I decide to copy him and eat more apples, but I rapid spin and blow away the spikes, and he just freaking explodes. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? You don't have an ice move on this thing? Whatever, if you want to waste your Pokemon, go ahead. And I live, that's the best part. So yeah, not much good it does me because I'm poisoned and whatnot. So he decides to bring out the Sharpedo because he's going to go for an Aqua Jet. I mean, it's obvious. So I go out to look at my belly, and I get nice healing done because I have the water absorbability, as opposed to my shell armor Lapras that I had in one match. So he sends out Togekiss, and I break its bricks because that's obviously what I'm going to do. And it doesn't do that much because it's neutral damage. I don't know. So I decide to go for an Ice Punch, and he Psychics. I'm like, what? What kind of freaking Togekiss is Psychic? I mean, it doesn't give it any advantages in OU. It sure as heck ain't going to give it any in other tiers. I mean, come on. Whatever. I mean, I don't know. It's not even epic predictions. And, I mean, I'm all for originality, but Psychic? And now I bring in Staring Contest, and thankfully that manages to work out somewhat. But he gets a special defense drop, which is, whatever. And I eat more apples. He puts up a light screen because he's afraid of charge beams, so I beam him with my charge beam, and I get the special attack rise because that's pretty much guaranteed to happen. And he eats more apples as I eat more apples because I like copying him. And he goes for a metronome. I'm like, what? What kind of Togekiss set is this? And now my Staring Contest turns to Banana because it has 292 hit points. And he eats more apples and gains pretty much all his health back. So he goes for another metronome, and he gets a freaking Grass Knot. I'm like, oh, come on. But whatever, I guess I can't really do anything about it. After tying a knot of grass around me, I somehow lose health, and I use my psychic powers to read into its mind, but apparently Togekiss doesn't have much going on up there. It's too busy being OU. So he goes for another metronome and gets a Dragon Rush, and after the Reflect, it's going to do, like, nothing. And the Psychic, I decide to try and read its mind again, but again, not much is going on up there. So I eat more apples, he eats more apples, we're having a great time. And he goes for Last Resort. I'm like, what? How can you go for a Last Resort? You have a ton of moves left. That makes no sense at all. So the light screen wears off, and instead of finishing me off like a normal person would, he decides to set up another light screen. I mean, come on, I'm slower than you. You could just killed me and then set up another one on the next turn. My Reflect wears off like it matters. And yeah, more eating apples and whatnot. So he goes into his pedophile shark again, and I go for a charge beam because of epic predictions, and yeah, that should take it out, but for some reason this thing is like incredibly... I mean, I can understand not taking it out this time because it has the light screen up, but the first time when I thunderbolted it, what? Sharpedo does not live that kind of attack, especially with -1 special defense. So I send out my Gold Digger because that's obviously what Jinx looks like. And I go for Focus Blast, and Choice Specs Focus Blast would obviously kill, but it freaking misses. And yeah, I guess that Gold Diggers just can't focus on anything unless it's seeing how much money somebody has and trying to go after them for it. So he eats more apples, and I decide, okay, Senorita Mugio, it's time for you to come out and finish things up. So I body slam it, and it dies, and I get a rough skin recoil damage, but it doesn't really matter that much. And Senorita Mugio starts eating its apple, and now Mawile comes out and gives me an Intimidate, and I go for a curse because I'm like, you know what, I hate the fact that your freaking Sharpedo lived a freaking attack from my freaking Frostlass. Yay, alliteration. So I eat more apples and I'm back at full health. And I'm like, I'm going to go for a body slam and totally get the parahacks. And I do. So that's awesome. And he goes for more dancing with swords because apparently that's the cool thing to do at this point. And I curse again because I'm like, you know what, screw you, seriously, you just suck. I mean, honestly. Your Sharpedo and its hacked HP stat that apparently makes it live a Thunderbolt with a -1 special defense. So I just keep cursing up because I figure, I mean, seriously, what's he going to do? So he goes for a Crunch, and look how little that does, and he's at full attack. He's at +6. And I'm guessing he was going for a switch or maybe a misclick or something, I don't know. So I body slam him again, that's going to be like, he's going to be dead soon. But he goes for an Iron Head, and I'm like, wow! You figured out that stab moves will actually do more damage! So he eats more apples, and I eat more apples, yeah, whatever. And I go for another curse because, it can't hurt having more defense and attack. And he Iron Heads, and he gets a freaking crit. I'm like, you know what? So I go back out to look at my belly and break its bricks, and I was actually thinking it might live, but thankfully it goes down. So now he goes into his stupid Togekiss, and I'm thinking, okay, it's his good game, he's going to sweep me. He goes for the Psychic, and I live barely, and I go for the Waterfall because I think, well, stab and, well, it doesn't do much more than Ice Punch, we're done. So he eats more apples, and I eat more apples, and I can't really say I'm having a good time in this battle. So I go back out to Mr. Sandman because he needs to just, I want to see what he's going to do. And apparently he was going to just sweep me the rest of the way, but apparently he decided to make up for it by going for a metronome, and I think it's hilarious. He got Fling, and he flings his leftovers, so he's no longer getting any health back, and I finish him off with Ice Punch, so that's pretty cool. So I eat more of my apples to get more health back, and he goes into Corsola. And I'm thinking, well, even if he does go for a move, I'm probably not going to die from it. And I was thinking, well, if he went for a Power Gem, I wonder how much that would have done, but I resist it, so I don't know. He goes for an Earth Power, which is neutral damage, and I still live with 3 HP. But thankfully, I'm able to finish him off with my look at my belly, because it's the last thing I had left. And honestly, this game was just so freaking weird. I don't get it. So yeah, bad game, HyperLopunny, just because I don't feel like saying good game.